In this video we discuss, is Switch 2 a bad name? This week we've seen lots of Nintendo Switch 2 announcements and rumours and whatnot, but in all of those rumours and announcements there's been some leaks that suggest that the Switch 2 is going to literally be called the Nintendo Switch 2. It's not going to have some kind of weird name like the Wii U had, going from the Wii to the Wii U. It's not going to be called the Super Switch. It's literally just going to be called the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, of course, we don't know that. It's just been heavily rumoured. But yeah, in this video we're going to discuss, is that a good thing? Is it a good thing that it's going to be called the Switch 2? Or is that going to harm the Switch with it kind of not having a very creative name? I mean, this is very not like Nintendo. It kind of goes against the history of Nintendo. Nintendo have never done this. They've never just gone the Game Boy 2, or they've never just gone the NES 2, or the Super Nintendo 2. They've always come up with a unique name, whether that be the N64, or the GameCube, or the Wii, or the Wii U. They've come up with weird and, strange names for consoles, but that's made them stand out. That's made them, be creative. It's made them stand out from the crowd. And it's very strange to see that they're taking the kind of PlayStation approach of just saying Switch 2, or, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. They are doing that sort of just add a number to it kind of PlayStation approach. And to be fair to Sony, that approach has always worked. They've always just named the next PlayStation a different number, and that has worked for Sony. They have made successful consoles and have sold really well. So from that perspective, it's clear to the audience what this new thing is. This is clear to the audience that the Switch 2 is the Switch 2, and it's the second Nintendo Switch. You can't play Switch 2 games on a Switch 1. It's very clear. I like the Switch 2 as a name in terms of like a marketing standpoint and like a sales standpoint and understanding of the audience and advertising and everything like that. From a business standpoint, it makes sense just to call it the Switch 2. The Switch 1 was successful. It's done really well for Nintendo. They're making another one. It just makes sense to call it number 2. Of course, we don't know an official name for the system yet. We are all just calling it Switch 2. But I feel like, if they do go and call it the Switch 2, I feel like it's pretty much, a guaranteed success from that name alone. It's such a good name. It's so simple. It's straight to the point. It tells the audience what it is. It's not like a new generation. It makes sense. Old Switch games are going to work on the Switch 2. It's not like it's a whole new system and, it's restarting all over again in terms of marketing and, telling people what it is, or, it has a new gimmick. It's the same thing as before, just more powerful with new and better games on it. I really like it. I like how simple it's going to be. I think that just calling it Switch 2 is the easiest option, but it's also the safest option. This is such a safe option for Nintendo to do. And I feel like Nintendo taking the safe option is the best thing that they can do. The Wii U was a sequel to the original Wii, and that had a weird name. That had, a strange name that people didn't quite understand. And to this day, people really don't understand the Wii and the Wii U. They still think that it's an add-on for the original Wii. They don't want that, whole thing to happen again. So, if they just called the Wii U the Wii 2, it would have sold a lot more units, and I feel like that's what they're going with here. They're going with the idea of, let's just call it number 2, so it's so simple to the audience, everybody knows what it is, and hopefully it will be a success. On the other hand, it is quite a boring, basic, underwhelming name. It is just calling something number 2, especially when Nintendo have a history of having really creative names and being the most creative gaming company in my opinion. But at the end of the day, it is all about games. It's all about the games that come to the system, and for games to come to a system, it has to be successful. If Nintendo call it just the Switch 2, it's pretty much guaranteed to be successful, and that means more games come to it. And at the end of the day, that is what we want. We want a Nintendo system to be successful, so it has lots and lots of games for it. We want it to sell well. We want the system to do well, and I feel like if we want the system to do well, it has to have quite a simple, easy to understand name, and I feel like that's what Nintendo are doing here. So, in conclusion, it is a good name. I do like the name Nintendo Switch 2. It's an easy to understand name. It will be easy for the audience to understand it. It makes sense. That's why it's a good name. However, it's also quite a bad name in the way that it is quite basic, it is quite boring, and it doesn't make the Switch stand out as well. You know, people might see that and go, well, we already have a Switch, what's different about the Switch 2? You know, why should I buy a Switch 2 when we already have a Switch? People might see that as well, but I feel like, you know, it's still going to do well if they call it the Switch 2. There's pros and cons to calling it, you know, different names. There's pros, you know, for calling it Switch 2. There's also cons for that. There's pros for calling it a unique new name, and there's also cons for that as well. I feel like Nintendo hasn't really had a creative name for the Switch 2 as well, because there isn't really a gimmick apart from, you know, it's just more powerful, it's more of the same, that's what it seems to be. So, you know, with the 3DS, it had the 3D gimmick, so the 3DS, you know, made sense for a name. This doesn't really have a gimmick. From what we've seen so far in terms of leaks, it doesn't have a gimmick. So, you know, maybe that's why Nintendo just decided to go for Switch 2 as well. At the end of the day, we still don't know what this thing is going to be called. Hopefully we'll be getting a reveal very, very soon, and hopefully it is called the Nintendo Switch 2. I want it to be called the Nintendo Switch 2. I feel like that makes sense. But yeah, we don't really know what it's going to be called. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you like the name Nintendo Switch 2? Do you hate it? What do you think Nintendo should call it? When do you think we will see a reveal? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below on the Switch 2. I'm very, very excited for a reveal. Hopefully we get a reveal tomorrow. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will see you in another video. Cheers for watching.